The idea of social purification through breeding has been documented since ancient Greece. However, the idea studied by Sir Francis Galton led to the contemporary eugenics movement. Galton was a cousin of evolutionary theorist Charles Darwin. Applying Darwin's ideas to the human race, Galton believed that through selective breeding, desirable traits could be spread to offspring. He imagined a eugenic utopia achieved through breeding. Other ideas of his included using Asians to breed out the undesirable Africans. Sir Galton ignored facts we now know to be significant in genetics, such as the relationship between nature and nurture. Instead, he applied stereotypes to the various races and social groups. Galton even disputed some of Darwin's supporting theories, such as the idea that hereditary information could be altered in one's own life. In 1889, Galton coined the term eugenics, and from then on, the study and movement of eugenics was on its way to sterilizing countless men and women, and it would be the scientific justification for the genocide in Europe and elsewhere.
In 1911, the Eugenic Records Office, also known as the ERO, was established. What they did was they tracked family histories and concluded that people deemed to be unfit were poor, had low social standing, and were immigrants. He blamed genetics instead of resources. Governments began to sterilize the population, and sterilization refers to procedures done that result in infertility. They started with the mentally ill and then later targeted people with alcoholism, criminality, blindness, deafness, and chronic poverty.
President David Starr Jordan of Stanford University was the first one that coined the title, the Master Race, in 1902 that Hitler would not use for another 3 decades. Towards the end of his life, while he was the president of the university, he began to focus on a legacy that he wished to leave behind. He chose the controversial topic of eugenics, which at the time was called advanced selective reproduction. Unlike Hitler, he believed that trying to create the master race was actually a waste of time, and believed the negative traits were inherited through genetics. He believed that the survival of the fittest needed our help segregating and sterilizing those who are the weakest of the gene pool. As a very active peace activist, he was hoping that by segregating and sterilizing certain temperamental races that conflicted would cease to happen. Being the president of the Stanford University caused his beliefs to rub off on the students, who happened to be rich white men that would later become the generations that spread such ideas globally.
On May 2, 1927, in Richmond, Virginia, Carrie Buck versus John Henry Bell was a case against Carrie Buck, who was a poor young woman put on trial for a compulsory sterilization and was for the protection and health of the state. In an 8-1 decision, the court accepted that Carrie, her mother, and daughter were feeble-minded and promiscuous, and then the state's interest was to sterilize the 3. The significance and effect of the Buck versus Bell case was to legitimize eugenic sterilization as a whole. After Buck versus Bell, dozens of states added new sterilization statutes. The government-run program of forced sterilization in the United States helped shape Hitler's thinking.
Adolf Hitler is the most powerful example of what can happen when a eugenics program is the motivating force of a political movement. He joined the German Workers' Party in 1919, later changing its name to the infamous Nazi Party. When his party's ideas of anti-capitalism, anti-Marxism, Pan-Germanism, Aryanism, and anti-Semitism took hold in the elections of 1933, he was appointed Chancellor of Germany, giving him the means to carry out his ideas of social purification. All those deemed undesirable by Hitler were subject to extermination. He held the belief that Aryans were a superior race of blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white-skinned Europeans, and during his reign, nearly 6 million Jews, as well as millions of other racial minorities, mentally and physically disabled peoples, gypsies, and homosexuals were exterminated. While the West loves to disavow Adolf Hitler for his actions, it was the ideas practiced by British and American schools and governments that motivated him to actually enact on his own beliefs.